Tonight, a war of words erupts as Nick Xenophon's candidate is announced for the seat of Giles. And heating up, just when we thought it was cooling off, the region's set to sizzle once again.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. After months of speculation, prominent Whyalla identity Tom Antonio will run as an SA Best candidate in the seat of Giles. The announcement, however, has triggered an ugly spat between the challenger, the current member and the Premier.
As predicted, Mr X has turned to Tom A. The worst-kept secret in town was finally revealed, with the councillor and business owner to take on Eddie Hughes.
We need to make change. We have to have change. If we don't have change, nothing will change.
Tom Antonio is an outstanding community leader. He's a champion for his community.
The announcement sparked a backlash, with Premier Jay Weatherill blasting the former acting mayor for his conduct during Ariam's administration.
The administrator had to speak to him about his behaviour. He played an incredibly destructive role through that whole process.
The current member for Giles also weighed in, rehashing a 25-year-old allegation regarding an offensive fax allegedly sent from Mr Antonio's office.
A racist fax, a licence to kill Aboriginals, was sent out from Tom Antonio's business, and I asked that he stand down from the council.
Mr Antonio furiously denied the claim.
Absolute lie. Never. It was an absolute lie and a total fabrication.
His leader also accused Labor of going into the gutter.
That is really gutter politics. The police actually investigated that. It didn't go any further.
The day's events made the meeting of the two candidates at a function this afternoon all the more awkward.
How you going, Tom?
Wish you all the best. Maybe a good, clean campaign.
Well, I hope it is going to be a
Absolutely.
clean
And it's only just a beginning. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
A court has heard the shocking details about the alleged murder of a man in Corn in November last year. It comes as the accused attempted to apply for bail. Amelia Simpson was in court.
After an alleged murder that left the town of Quorn shaken last year, the accused, Ms Adriana Tennant, sat solemnly in the Port Augusta Magistrates Court this afternoon, her lawyer making an application for her bail. Tennant's lawyer said that her client had no prior criminal conviction and urged Magistrate Milazzo to consider home detention in another suburb with her husband as guarantor. The court heard Tennant was finding custody uncomfortable and stressful. It also heard that her mental health issues were being explored. The DPP representing the victim, Quorn father 38-year-old Nathan Freer, told the court it was opposed to all forms of bail after reviewing dashcam footage of the incident. The DPP said the footage showed Tennant performing a U-turn before running into the victim, pushing him through a fence and only stopping once she hit a tree. It said the victim appeared to have a beer bottle in his hand but was run over before he had the chance to throw it. The court heard that there was an ongoing feud between the victim and the accused over a number of months. The magistrate said he couldn't consider bail on any terms in the name of community safety, saying leaving emotions aside, the act was horrendous. Tennant was refused bail and will reappear in court next month.
Fishers will soon be able to access the Beetaloo Reservoir in the state's mid-north. It's the second facility that'll be opened up for recreational purposes, with another on the Eyre Peninsula soon to follow suit.
Keen anglers are set to reel in more freshwater fish from around the mid-north.
I mean, there's a craze growing of fly fishing right throughout Australia at the moment, and also like anything with the plastics, soft lures and all that sort of stuff. It's the fantastic place for it to be open, and the scenery is just perfect.
The state government has granted offshore-based recreational fishing at Beetaloo Reservoir, creating another high-quality freshwater fishery in the region.
People will be able to take advantage of recreating in just a beautiful area.
Yesterday, the reservoir was stocked with thousands of freshwater fish in preparation for its launch.
25,000 fish into Beetaloo Reservoir yesterday, and that included Murray cod, silver perch and golden perch.
It's hoped the reservoir will become a recreational hotspot for tourists.
They've just allowed the use of canoes and kayaks on Warren Reservoir near Williamstown, and we think that type of activity would be wonderful at Beetaloo.
Anglers visiting the region will be able to cast their line into the Beetaloo Reservoir as of May 1 this year. It's hoped the new opportunity will bring fishers in from across the state, injecting money back into the local economy.
I think it'll be just a fantastic future for us all.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
A damning report has revealed the Broken Hill Civic Centre is far from being anywhere ready for reopening. A consultant hired by council inspected the facility, describing a complete building in an appalling state. 2 events booked in the centre will now have to be rescheduled. The council is continuing to pursue legal action against the builders. Proceedings are expected to start soon. Premier Jay Weatherall's regional tour continued in Whyalla today with a number of meetings and announcements. The City Hospital will receive 2 extra dialysis beds, while a number of new jobs will be created in a new project at the local airport.
The J bus rolled into Whyalla today, and with it came plenty of cash for the region. The major winner, the local hospital. 2 new dialysis beds will be made available in the renal unit to cater for growing demand.
Investing in world-class healthcare is a key priority for South Australians and is a massively important priority for people in country South Australia.
The unit will expand from 4 to 6 beds. Local health professionals say it'll ensure more locals can be treated at home.
Will allow more patients to have their treatment here rather than having to travel elsewhere.
The Premier then moved on for a meeting with Sanjeev Gupta at the Whyalla Steelworks before signing an agreement with Becker Pilots for a new project in the city. It's setting up a pilot training course with a focus on the military.
They come in and do a year of English and then they do a year of flight training. And from there they normally go back to the United States.
The hub will be open to 50 students and will create 80 jobs in the process over the next year.
The state government and the local council have just done everything in their power to help facilitate a move for our business.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, the region's set to sizzle once again. The details from the CFS next. Another part of the Port Augusta Power Station will be demolished. This time, it's the site's 80-metre stack. The Playford B concrete and brick chimney is set to be charge-felled tomorrow at 9 a.m. Flinders Power says while there's no designated public viewing areas, locals will be able to hear the explosion from town. Police will be enforcing land and sea exclusion zones half an hour before demolition. The region is bracing for yet another heatwave, with some areas set to see near record temperatures. With Port Augusta tipped to hit the mid-40s this weekend, locals are being urged to be fire safe.
While the Port Augusta mercury is steadily rising for Australia Day with a top of 42 degrees, the Bureau of Meteorology says this Saturday's top of 46 is looking like a scorcher.
You're looking at near record temperatures for this summer there on the Saturday. And look, Sunday's not much better. We're forecasting a minimum of 30 and a maximum of 45.
The CFS says these blistering temperatures for the area is yet another reason to have a fire plan in place.
Only takes you 5 minutes, and that way you have a plan that you can work to on a day of high fire risk.
And if you're thinking of cooking up an Australia Day feast, the CFS says to pay close attention to fire bans.
If it does turn out to be total fire bans on Australia Day, some of the key things people need to be aware of is the requirement for a permit to use a barbecue if they're not cooking it at home.
The region's recent spate of very dry conditions has primed surrounding grassland.
So that means that the fuel that is around is very dry and ready to go.
While Monday is expected to bring in the cool change with a top of 33 down to 27 on Tuesday, the CFS recommends locals keep 2 eyes open over the long weekend.
In the event that someone does see something unusual in an area, if they see cars driving around that maybe out of the blue, something that wouldn't normally be where they are, we would most likely suggest that they contact the police.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
And Amy will have the full weather forecast for the region a little later in the bulletin. The New South Wales opposition says Broken Hill residents could soon be paying a lot more for their water. It claims if the upkeep costs of the Murray River Broken Hill pipeline is passed on to locals, water bills will soar.
The cost of living only seems to be getting harder with skyrocketing power and fuel prices. But now the New South Wales opposition says it might get even tougher. The Shadow Water Minister says maintenance costs for the pipeline could be passed on to ratepayers.
That's a huge bill for the average resident in Broken Hill.
Residents can breathe a sigh of relief knowing they won't have to cover the cost of the $467 million construction of the pipeline, but after it's done, it's a different story.
The government must come clean, tell the people of Broken Hill how much do they have to pay for this pipeline that many of them just don't want.
Infrastructure company John Holland, which is building the pipeline, will also undertake its operations and maintenance as part of a 20-year, $107 million contract. That works out to just over $5 million a year in maintenance costs. Divide that by the town's 10,000 customers, it means households could pay $535 a year. In all, that's more than $10,000 per customer over the 20 years.
I think the government's got something to hide here. They won't release the business case because the average cost for the consumer in Broken Hill is too high.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Preparations for Tunarama are well underway in Port Lincoln, with organisers busily preparing the foreshore for tomorrow's launch. It comes as thousands of tourists flood the town from the first of 3 cruise ships set to dock this weekend.
It's full steam ahead for tomorrow's Tunarama Festival.
There's a lot of excitement in Port Lincoln at the moment.
Passengers on board the Nordam received an early start when their cruise liner docked in the harbour this morning, officially commencing the Tunarama weekend. On Friday, the Golden Princess will join her, followed by the Pacific Jewel on Saturday, bringing a total of 6,000 visitors to the region.
I'd be very surprised if this weekend isn't on the cruising calendar for quite some time to come.
But it wasn't just the passengers up at dawn. Tunarama organisers were hastily preparing the foreshore, setting the stage for its official launch when SA Premier Jay Weatherill rolls into town.
To attract the dignitaries, to attract those high-profile people, and therefore the media that follows them around, is always good for Port Lincoln.
The event will also receive international attention, with overseas film crews covering the tuna toss.
We're known across Australia and now around the world for this really iconic and quirky event.
The festival will drive a welcome economic boost for the town, with retailers and accommodation sites reaching full capacity over the weekend.
The accommodation is always tight, always full over the Australia Day long weekend.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
After the break, all the thrills and spills from a T20 Twilight match in Port Lincoln, sending Tasmans into tomorrow night's final. That's next. $22,000 will be injected into the Heritage Rail Trail in Peterborough. In a bid to increase tourist numbers, a community development officer will be based in the town for another 3 years.
To be able to get more people to come to Peterborough and help with their Stay Another Day campaign and really showcase one of the most iconic tourism enterprises in South Australia.
It comes as Peterborough was recognised as one of the most disadvantaged communities in South Australia. To some local sport now, and the Tasmans have beaten Charlton in a Twilight 2020 match in Port Lincoln to advance into tomorrow night's final. It comes as the league was forced to cancel the City versus District game on Saturday due to extreme weather conditions.
T20 cricket received a flying start in Port Lincoln. Tasman faced Charlton in twilight conditions last night for a chance to play Southern Air in Thursday night's final. Charlton won the toss and sent Tasmans into bat, the top order wasting no time finding the boundary. But it soon unravelled when opener Jack Bunder nicked one through to the keeper, followed shortly by Andrew Frick going the same way. Tasmans quickly having to regroup to post a decent run chase, Shanley proving a major problem, taking 3 wickets. Charlton soon finding its line and length on the synthetic pitch. But it was veteran Matt Dyer who steadied the ship for Tasmans, posting a top score of 54 for the match, with Bryant also making 35. Some costly blunders from Charlton fielding helped Tasmans regain control. However, a late run out from confusion on the pitch led to a bottom order collapse and the tail failing to wag. Tasmans all out for 161. As the lights flicked on at Ravendale Oval and Charlton took the crease, there was some big hitting from Luke Yancic and the top order, quickly making early runs, but it was superb bowling from Bryant and Dyer that saved the match. Tasmans hanging on to advance to tomorrow night's final against Southern Air.
It's a chance to play in a grand final and get a bit of silverware in the season, so yeah, everyone's up and about and hopefully we can defend it.
Scorching temperatures this weekend has forced the league to cancel its annual City vs District game for player safety.
With 40 degrees on Saturday, our hot weather policy doesn't allow us to play in that, so we've called it off just in the safety of the players and also the crowd.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Time now for Fuel Watch.
With Australia Day fast approaching, bringing a long weekend, there's some good news at the Bowser. Prices are on the way down. Starting with unleaded, and Port Lincoln is the only regional centre to see a rise, but it's only minimal. Whyalla is down a cent and now on 1.38, while Port Augusta is doing a little bit better at 1.37. Both Port Pirie and Kadina have seen 2-cent drops in their averages. The price is now hovering on $1.35. Broken Hill is the only one to not see any movement, with the same price as Port Lincoln. And Adelaide is on the downward trend with a 15-cent drop, seeing the price plummet to $1.25. To diesel now, and Whyalla and Port Augusta are both breaking even, while Port Lincoln hits the $1.40 mark. Kadina is almost there as well, with a 4-cent rise seeing their price jump to $1.39. Broken Hill is holding steady and Adelaide is doing very well for itself. They're on the way down and sitting on $1.31. Now remember, these prices are the regional averages and they do not reflect any one particular outlet. If you happen to find a spot that does sell unleaded or diesel for cheaper, let us know on our Facebook page.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll have all the local weather details with Amy Stevenson. And Amy, what can the Spencer Gulf expect as we head into the long weekend?
Well, Fraser, those warmer temperatures are still hanging around, although a wet and windy change is on the way for some areas. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back. Port Augusta is seeing a little relief from those warm temperatures, 34 at the top there today. Whyalla stayed in the high 20s, while it was a few degrees cooler in Port Lincoln and 26. However, temperatures did remain well into the 30s for all other centres. To the satellite now, and a weak low pressure system is bringing some clouds and some light rain across South Australia. Skies are clearer in the northern parts of the state. And if you're planning on being on the waters tomorrow, we will see a southeasterly shifting southwesterly winds up to 20 knots. Seas will reach 2 metres and the sun will pop up at 6:32. Taking a look at conditions for tomorrow, and Port Augusta will swelter through another hot day, reaching 41. Port Lincoln will continue to hover in those high 20s, while it's still going to remain quite warm in Woodner, 40 the top there, while it'll be 41 in Corn. Meanwhile, Broken Hill will also see temperatures rise to 40 degrees, with temperatures in the mid to high 30s for all other districts. Looking ahead, and it'll remain quite warm in Port Lincoln with temperatures in the 30s. A wet and windy change is predicted by Sunday. Cleve will reach 42 on Saturday before fine conditions and 38 on Sunday. However, it's still going to be very hot in Woodner, hovering to the low to mid 40s over the next couple of days. Continuing to stay warmer further up the Gulf, and Port Augusta is in for a warm weekend, 46 on Saturday, 45 on Sunday. The hot temperatures will continue in Whyalla also, getting to tops of 43, while in Kadina they will also see tops of 40 and 41 over the weekend. Port Pirie will also get a good dose of the heat, reaching 44 on Sunday. Similar temperatures in Clare over the coming days, 39 on Friday, 41 over the weekend. And for those in Broken Hill, there's no relief yet, with temperatures hovering in the 40s, warming up to 43 on Saturday and 42 on Sunday. So Fraser, there's no break from the warmer weather just yet around the Spencer Gulf.
It will sure be a warm Australia day. Thanks, Amy. And that's Southern Cross News tonight. Thanks for your company. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. We'll see you then. Good night.